Well, we heard the Christmas story last week from Matthew. That is the pre-Christmas story, the difficulties of Joseph. And we talked about the mysterious nature of all of that. And so tonight, we are taking part in remembering the greatest mystery of all time. The time that the world changed. The time that something new was reborn. After college, I was able to take my grand tour of Europe, and I happened to end up in Edinburgh. And so I was staying with friends who had just come back from safari. They were well off, and so we stayed at the Caledonian Hotel, which is right downtown off Princess Street with the castle up there in the park. So, great spot. And I got to stay with the odd uncle up in the room that was looking out. And that memory came back to me because last night we watched a movie called Driving Lessons, in which a young 17-year-old boy was taken off by a semi-retired actress to one of the festivals that Edinburgh hosts, and they end up at the Caledonian. So I started thinking about it. What do I remember? And I have to tell you, I have to admit, I remember precious little. I can remember the way the front door was kind of at the corner of the street, and the kind of odd way that the old windows were in the room, but I don't know how I got from the airport to the hotel. I don't know what the restaurant was. I was as dumb as the hero of the movie. There was this opportunity at this most beautiful city in Europe, in this heart of the city, in this fancy hotel, to which I was ill prepared to be part of any of the culture. And I remember very little. In fact, maybe I'm just making up that memory, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So I'm also, as things will work together, reading Ivan Doig's The Sky. What's the title? No, but Sky. Anyway, so it's his story of his upbringing in White Sulphur Springs, Montana. And he starts the book with this: everything that I have, everything in my life comes from my memory. And it all starts with the 6th birthday, the day my mother died. And he goes on to do this riff about how memories affect him and how his father adjusted to the loss of his wife by, well, I remember when we were there, and I remember this, and I remember that. So, to get to our story tonight, we remember the birth of Jesus. Now, we weren't there, but this celebration of Christmas is probably something that we do remember in the past. Every year. We can remember the Christmas that the kids came to visit. We can remember the Christmas that I got a train set. We can remember the Christmas we were at Grandpa and Grandma's with all the new little boys. We can remember this day in our lives. But what is it that we remember, really? What is this moment? How do we make this moment so rich and full and be so aware of what's happening that the truth of Christmas descends upon us? I mean, what is it that we remember clearly, those odd details? I think most of us in our generation remember November 22, 1963. JFK was assassinated, and I remember the details. 9/11, of course. We remember. Those things that burn in our minds. and that we are so aware of. And of course, both of those are fearful moments. And I think fear as an emotion gears us up, makes us more alive. But what about Christmas? What can we do? How do we accept this world-changing event year after year? So, what's the story? What's the story? Now, we want to remember the positive moments, those joyful moments of Christmas. And the church celebrates a blue Christmas for those for which Christmas is lacking all the stuff that we expect, all the joys that we ought to be having, we're entitled to. What is it we're celebrating? What's the story? A baby was born. A baby was born in a little town, a little pretty much unknown town. And this was a refugee couple in a sense. They were not in their own place. They didn't have a place to be. Nobody was taking care of them particularly. If we take out the angels of this story and we just have the story, it's a pretty unexceptional event. I mean, maybe a few shepherds would have wandered by and go, "Oh, are you guys okay?" But maybe not. Of course, in the history books of the time, the Roman history books, why, again, no mention is made of this event. I mean, we think now, suppose that Emperor Augustus said this great registration was happening. Well, just think of the media. You know, it's 50 days until registration. Be sure to get back. And the motels are offering specials, 3 nights, you know, for a discount price at your home. And, you know, airline, yeah, the fares probably go up. But at any rate, think of the hoopla surrounding such an event. And Mary and Joseph are just there by themselves. Maybe at the end, maybe everybody was coming back, you know, it was like reunion times. Well, I haven't seen you for 20 years. You came back to Bethlehem to be registered. Great, great time. But for Joseph of Bethlehem, he and his wife were alone. Now we talk about the memories that burn in our minds. Well, I was of the new generation that was allowed to be present at the birth of my children. And I remember each one. Not like Chris, mind you, but I do remember. And those were moments that changed my life. I mean, if you've raised kids, you know that. Well, I remember our friends. They had a son. And from the carefree days of just going out to here and there, suddenly, when we'd invite them, they were a half hour late, and they came loaded with all this stuff. Life was different, and of course, it hit us. But it changed our hearts in a way instantaneously. From not having a child to having someone new in life that we loved so dearly. And so we have to wonder, what is God about? That this world-changing event is such an, in a sense, unexceptional thing. Yes, we try to make the best of Christmas. Our culture has lots of talk about Christmas. But what is it that should burn in our hearts as we remember this event? Because God is telling us something. God's coming down to earth. That's an unusual thing. If the Greek gods appeared, why, everybody made known that They were afraid, and God appears as a baby. Now, of course, the angels had to tell the shepherds to fear not. And what is it that the shepherds ran to see? What was it about that? And of course, we have the glory be to God on high, peace on earth, goodwill to men. We have that music that, well, can we hear it? That music that we can not even imagine. I can't imagine it. The heavenly music, the best there is, beyond anything we know. Even though we have the Messiah and we have beautiful music on earth. They heard this and were moved so much. Now, we don't know what they did after they saw God incarnate, Emmanuel. But it was a moment in their life. When else would they leave their flocks in the middle of a winter night and go to see this quiet moment? Everybody else in Bethlehem was celebrating whatever they were celebrating. But God came in this tiny, silent moment. So these, shall I say, cosmic moments are so ordinary, says God. Can we accept the miracle of our creation? That moment by moment, we have miracle after miracle. Can I finally become aware of going to some strange place and really taking it in? So, let us imagine, let us know, there are angels floating around us tonight, singing the heavenly hymns that we sing back. Tonight at midnight, we're going to raise a loud bell sound, and we're going to celebrate the arrival of Christmas proper. So all these special moments of our lives, let's pay attention. Let's show the love that we have for the God who loves us so much and asks us to live abundantly, to enjoy this miracle of creation through Jesus Christ. Amen.